calling the meeting to order.
Can you hear Mayor Robert?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Sorry I'm late. It's all right. Oh. All right, we were roll call. What chair? I didn't look at this. We're electing the secretary today. Is that what we're supposed to do?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Should represent our presence. The chairman of the body, law director Brian Moriarty is here. Present. Auditor April.
Present.
Secretary Sherry. Ooh, it's even better.
Here.
Thank you. All right. We need to elect a secretary. I'm going to suggest that Sherry Mao be our secretary. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Robert Esper is joining us now as a commission member. Sorry, Robert.
Thank you. Hello.
How are you?
I'm terrific. Thank you for accommodating me on this.
Sure. Looks nice out today.
It's terrific.
Okay. All right. Sherry, congratulations. You're now the secretary.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You have before you the Records Commission meeting minutes of December 17th, 2020. Did everybody have a chance to look those through? Is there a motion to approve? Go ahead.
Motion to approve.
Second. Thank you. All right, it's moved and seconded. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed say no. Great. That has been approved then. All right, moving on now to the approval of RC1 and RC2. It's our records retention schedule. First up is the Treasurer's Office, RC1. Brian Keller is here representing the Treasurer's Office, and he is the Treasurer of the City of Ridgeville. Brian, you want to tell us a little bit about your form and what's going on there?
We have a substantial amount of documentation that we no longer have any use for, we don't produce, and we're not required to keep. I don't know if you guys have the RC1 with the list of documents on it.
We do.
Okay. On the back is the list of all of those. And the first item there is the First Merrick Bank full collateral statements. We no longer have business with First Merrick. We have repository agreements that exist. Also, the Ohio full collateral system now is a completely different system that we use. We have no use for those. Treasurer's reports are just outdated. We do have all the current ones, but for the past 10 to 15 years, those are outdated and no longer those treasurer's reports. Those are the reports they get presented to City Council and your money. The next series of statements are just miscellaneous statements that are outdated, that we no longer have use for, and are no longer produced.
All right.
Just want to get rid of them.
Yeah, some of these are quite old. All right, are there any questions, comments? Motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Do you want a second?
Second.
All right, it's moved and seconded. Then all those in favor say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. All right, that has been approved. Great. Thank you, Mr. Keller. Computer Services, RC2. Dean Prevey is here. Dean, tell us about your report here.
I was taking a look at the requirements for email retention. Right now, emails from non-administrative members are in theory kept for 2 years. Anything that has administrative value is 5 years, since there's no programmatic way for me to tell the difference between the two. Every single email that's sent or received is kept for 5 years. I questioned what requires us to keep them that long. It was a best practice as opposed to either an ordinance or a law. And I'm suggesting that we keep them for 2 years. Now, if people want to keep their email longer than that, more power to you. I just don't have to keep every single email that comes in and out of my server for more than 2 years. And since we're looking to go to the cloud, which is going to cost us money for storage, I thought it was appropriate to take a look at reducing that to 2 years, which is what it's supposed to be for general. I'm not sure of anything that requires us to keep it longer than that, and anything beyond 2 years. Again, people can still keep them longer than 2 years. It's just that if a request comes in, I can't guarantee you that beyond 2 years they're going to satisfy the request.
Okay. Any comments or questions? And can I get a motion to approve?
Second.
All right, it was moved and seconded to approve computer services RC2. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. All right, now moving on to public utilities. Tara P., you are here.
Hello.
Hello. Tell us about your RC2.
In comparison to the one that's currently in place, I gutted it from the ground up. I noticed that the current one that was in place wasn't input into the schedule how we file. So I tried to take how we file and plug that into a retention schedule. So one, it's easier for residents to request records and understand how our records are kept. And more than likely, because I'm new to my position, I'll have to edit this again in December. But this is a rough draft of how we're keeping things today. We're going to be going through a software implementation in September. So I anticipate, like I said, I'll have to change it again in December. If you'd like, I could go through each one individually, or if you have specific pointed questions, I'm happy to answer.
Can you hear Tara? Can you hear Tara? Robert?
I don't have any
Yes.
specific questions. If you're okay with, is there anything in particular that you want to point out, or is your summary good enough in your opinion?
No, the biggest thing I probably would point out is right now our current billing system, we have an archive that goes back to 2010. We're leaving that billing system and going to the billing system we only have 3 years of data. So of course, if I get a public records request today, after this is approved, I have the data and I have to provide it, regardless of what it says. But going forward, that will be the direction we go down.
Okay. All right.
You know what, Tara, I got a question. This would be number 9, the on-base workflow.
Yep.
Can you describe, what is that exactly?
So I didn't put a retention on that because I think I needed to talk to Bees. I don't know how long things are stored in on base.
At this point, if it goes into on-base, it's usually kept forever.
I don't have administrative rights to delete anything out of there, so we deal with forever period. But, so in on base right now, we have special assessment requests. If a parcel is being sold, the title company will reach out to the city to find out if there's any outstanding assessments and utilities, grass cutting. So that comes through and the clerk's office imports it and it goes through a workflow through each department that would carry assessments, and then it is emailed off to the title company. We do that all in on-base to streamline process. Pending water meetings, meter scheduling, pending water meter installation, water permit information, sewer tap inspection flow from engineering. All those processes start down in the building department. When somebody comes in and needs for a water meter, the initial paperwork will start down there and then it ends up in our office and it tells us, okay, the inspection's already been done. now we could green light and schedule the installation of the water meter. Just to keep things flowing,
Okay.
since many departments have. So,
And Dean, you're saying that that eventually goes to, gets on the computer and is there forever?
If you wish to implement a retention, that can be that, it's just, it'll be, if you say 10 years, at 10 years and 1 day, it'll automatically be deleted. So at this point, we're not doing that for any documents. We're just letting them accumulate, but retentions can be set for specific document types.
so perhaps we want to keep that as permanent, to put something in as of right now. We could always change it, but that's how we keep it today.
Right.
Are there any other questions? Can I get a motion to approve?
I would move to approve.
All right, it's been moved and approved and seconded to approve the public utilities RC2. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed say no. All right, that has been approved then. All right, let's move on to additional business and review of the draft of the public records policy. So we're provided with a current policy and a draft policy. We're being asked to accept the draft as a replacement for the current policy.
Mayor, just for the record, the law department, I think, has had a couple meetings on this along with the administration. This is months ago. This is kind of a culmination of it, finally putting it down to paper. Release some of the changes, and I know Tony Morgan was instrumental in that. She did all of it. And so if there's any questions, I'm sure you will answer.
Tony, you want to give us a little bit of overview of what the changes are and why?
Sure. Some of the changes were just minor, literally a period here or there. But there were three, Sherry asked me to review it, and there were three major changes that I'd like to point out. The first one being on the first page of the subject of definitions, number 2. The previous policy simply listed all of the terms and all their definitions right out of the ORC. And for most people who want to use the policy, that really was not something that was very useful to them. So instead, the suggested change is that we simply indicate that we use the same definitions as in the ORC. So that dramatically shortened the document. And then the other two changes at the bottom, or the way it looks on the copy that I have, upstairs, I can see it. At the bottom, relative to something that Tara had mentioned on the retention schedules, just added some wording to indicate that where items are generally available for as long as they are listed, that says they're going to keep them on the schedule or they go back to a certain year. And also indicating that, however, if they're not destroyed at the time frame listed in the retention schedule, that as long as we do have them, they are still public record and they have to be available.
Gotcha.
And then the only other suggestion was in section 4.3 under C. My suggestion there was to change that out completely. What's in C now is making a request. It's a very specific one that only journalists can make if they wanted names and familial information or residential information about the responder. It's a very specialized request. We've never had one to my knowledge. So it didn't seem as an overall general policy that was necessary there. But what I would replace it with is something that's more in the nature of a sort of disclaimer, just indicating that we will follow the Public Records Act, we will follow whatever case law interprets it. If there's a conflict with anything in our policy, should a change happen, then the new ORC or the new case law is what would prevail. And that's about it. Those are the only changes.
All right. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about what we're just told? result or about the document itself?
I do.
Yeah.
I have a question for Tony. Do you see any, I would agree the definitions are exhaustive, there's pages of definitions. Do you see any potential issues with readers not knowing like some of the major things in here? You know, because it's a city policy, do you think that any of the definitions might merit staying in the policy?
You know, I would leave that to the discretion of the board, the commission. I think there is possibly a definition here for what a public record is, but beyond that, for me, my suggestion would be that only if we use the word differently than it's normally used or that's used in the ORC, would we really need to define it. And with most people who make a public records request, they don't formally make a public records request. They don't, in their mind, think, I want this document. They're really asking for information. And most of the time we have to figure out, work with them and figure out exactly what document you want. Like most of the time they will say, I want all the records about X. And when that happens, you have to go back to them and say, well, can you be more specific? What kind of a document do you want? Sometimes we don't have what they're looking for. So, but I mean, if you wanted to add definitions, there's certainly no reason not to. But generally speaking, unless we're using them differently than the ORC uses them, then it would be important to have so people would know it's different. But otherwise, it's not necessary, but there's nothing wrong with it either.
I was just concerned about department heads who don't necessarily deal with this type of thing often, that they may not know if there isn't there. Well, maybe they would look at the ORC, maybe they, you know, would just skip it all together. Then it falls on your lap to have to not only assist the department head in understanding what's going on, but then also, I guess, essentially do more of the work than the department head having a reference to give some understanding.
Are there certain terms in particular that you're thinking of that you think should be in?
I thought public record, a definition of that would be helpful, but also like in regards to things that get redacted. Just because I know in my office, we use redaction a lot. And sometimes when you have new employees, they don't know what can or cannot be redacted. Just thinking down the road, should some of us not always be here, this might be a good reference document for the departments to utilize instead of relying on one person as a reference.
Well, you know, that's a thought, but almost all of them come through my office anyhow. Like I said, we can always put in if there's certain terms that you think would be helpful, say, for instance, for your department. I know for the police department, years ago, we put together a list and it has 14 items on it because of requests that come to them almost always fall within those 14 different items. So we use that extensively because it's very specific to police items. It has to do with things like first responder addresses, juvenile records, social security numbers, that sort of thing.
And you know, just if I could add to that, I know one of the goals with the policy was to streamline it. So this goes a ways to do that. But I think sometimes when you, especially if you selectively pick out definitions, number one, by referencing the Ohio Revised Code or Administrative Code, that reference changes when those code definitions change. We don't have to change our policy. You know, we're going to be up to date with the new definitions, and you know that those are more applicable. So that could avoid some confusion.
Well, and I think to what Brian said, that's one of the reasons that the section 4 I suggested C, to say that if the ORC changes, our policy changes with it.
And I think the building department has, you know, references to the fire code and, you know, things like that. So it's kind of I think it's used commonly. Or that type of reference is used commonly.
All right, great. All right, move to approve. There you go.
Robert, did you have any
Second.
questions?
All right, all those in favor say
Oh,
yes.
they've been answered. Yeah, yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All right, those opposed say no. Great, the new draft policy is now going to replace the current policy and become the current policy. So please take the draft.
That was motion,
Yeah,
Mayor, that
yes,
was motioned by Moriarty and seconded by Wilkerson.
yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I don't see any other business on the agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Great. Second.
Second.
All right, thanks. All right. Great. I won't even vote on that because we're all in favor of that. Let's go. No, all those in favor say yes.
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 I know, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Esper.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see you again.
Thanks for all your patience with me.
Very good. I appreciate being able to tune in on the Zoom.
Yes, enjoy your time off.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I had, would you, scroll back to office?